That was Bruce Franks ending that report by Randolph Nogel. Well, joining me again, Katy Solon from Democrats Abroad and Austin Rasmussen from Republicans Abroad, Norway. Katy, let me start with you. Black Lives Matter is a network of people. I've been looking at some of the individuals in leadership positions. Some of them, like Derai McKesson, Alicia Garza, begrudgingly voting for Hillary Clinton, even though they didn't want to officially endorse a candidate. They're voting for her as a sort of lesser of two evils, in their opinion. Mm-hmm. Others, like Mark Lamont Hill and others, saying, no, she represents the system's bad, and we're voting for third-party candidates like Jill Stein. Are those who are voting for third-party candidates like Jill Stein basically chucking their votes down the toilet, in your opinion?
They are, because the United States is a two-party system, and we're not a parliamentary system where if one of the third or fourth parties gets a small percentage of the votes, they can still get representation. It really is a winner-take-all system. It is two parties. If you're not voting for one of the two major candidates, then your vote in the end is not going to count in a presidential. It's going to count in the sense of a protest vote. It would count in the sense of saying that we're not happy with the system. So and our system's not perfect.
So let's then try to understand why they're not happy with the system. We've had 8 years of an African-American president. There's a black man in the White House. The Democrats are in charge. And they look at Ferguson, they look at Baltimore, and so on and so forth. Tamir Rice, Eric Garner. And they say, what is this? This doesn't serve us in any way. The system is broke, and there's still, in their opinion, systemic racism, despite the fact that we have a black man in the White House, despite the fact that Democrats are in charge. So is that all, the Democrats are going to tell them, well, if you vote for Trump, it's going to be worse?
We had 8 years of Barack Obama. We had hundreds of years of slavery. We had decades of Jim Crow laws. We had decades of segregation. And what your reporter from the United States told you in the clip that you just showed, there are many causes for the problems in America, for the problems that especially African Americans face. It's poverty, it's continued segregation. We are not where we want to be. We are not where we need to be. President Obama's election was an amazing thing for African Americans. And he really, in his presidency, he showed us many of the things that we need to do and where we need to go to get better. So people of color in the United States are going to be coming out today to vote for Hillary Clinton. Most minorities are, definitely Latinos are. But they're going to be voting for her because they know that she's respectful of all the groups in the United States and that she's going to continue the progress that we need to make.
Austin, in many instances, on the local level at least, there's been proof that Trump has the cop vote, or a lot of support from those who believe that cops are being targeted and that nobody's standing up for them. And they cite the sniper killings in Dallas, for example. They cite the 2 NYPD officers that were executed as well. Tell me a little bit about how Trump has managed to sort of get that support of those who believe there's another side to this coin and there's a cop narrative that nobody's listening to.
Well, one thing in particular is that the police are not this unified, organized conglomerate where they have they're not a part of one brain where the culture is running through. These situations that we see, whether it's Ferguson, whether it's Baltimore, whether it was recently in Charlotte, these situations are isolated incidents. These are incidents that are happening in different places all around the country. So I think that he's able to harness this support because the Black Lives Matter movement has been targeting police, at least in their rhetoric, and blaming the police for the problems or for this perceived systemic racism. But let's look at where these incidents have occurred. These are in cities, in the inner cities, that Democrats have run for decades. If we look at Baltimore, just for an example, it's a black mayor, it's a black commissioner of police, it's a black attorney general, and most of the cops that were involved in the incident were black. We go to Charlotte, one of the more recent uprisings. That was a black cop who shot another black man. And these are inner cities where the crime rates are the highest, and this is actually this is where I have a problem with both sides. This is where I have a problem with Trump and a problem with the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter has gone so far to an extreme that they are inspiring the targeting of police officers, which is abhorrent. Then you go to the other side where Donald Trump is billing himself as a law and order candidate. The fact of the matter is the crime rate in the United States has been steadily declining since the early 90s, and every single president wants to take credit for that, but it's absolutely irrelevant to who the president is. It is a consistent trend. The only places in the United States where crime rates spike are in the inner cities that have the most and strictest gun control laws in the country. And the #1 cause of death for a young black man in the United States is another young black man. And you don't see Black Lives Matter parading around in the streets of the inner cities saying, let's stop killing each other. Instead, they're blaming cops.
Okay, point well made. Let's take that now and just go a little further with that now. So you can have people saying, hey, the cops are being targeted. This might not be systemic racism. And these are all arguments within that context. And then we go a little bit further and we see the advent of what's called this alt-right movement. Online, you would have observed a lot of the stuff that they say. Anti-Semitism, boom, blowing the roof off, right? Anti-Muslim hatred, anti-black hatred, all sorts of names and things we thought we would never see and hear in 2016 coming to the fore again. I traveled to the United States and I had the opportunity to interview the Ku Klux Klan, all supporting Donald Trump. Neo-Nazis supporting Donald Trump. Do you accept that he has not come out vociferously enough to say those people have nothing to do with me?
Well, the fact of the matter is no one can control who endorses them. No one can control who supports them. Donald Trump has come out and he's denounced these types of organizations. But the fact of the matter is, very slowly, whatever the case may be, he has denounced them. He denounced them over a decade ago before he even thought about running for president, caught up in a similar situation back in 2001. Hillary Clinton, on the other side, back in 2010, when Senator Robert C. Byrd, who was the former leader and recruiter for the KKK, set a filibuster record against the Civil Rights Act of 1964, and when he died, Hillary Clinton did a video eulogy for him saying that I lost a friend and a mentor, an original American, she called him. But no one is questioning her affiliation, and these are words that she said. These are words that she said, excuse me, these are words that she said about Senator Byrd.
Sure, but let's just take the focus off of for just a second. Would you accept that the racists have exploded during this election and that the vast majority of them are Trump supporters?
I can't really, I couldn't really concretely say whether the vast majority of them are Trump supporters or not. I would agree that in this election, it seems that there is a fringe demographic that has certainly felt more comfortable with extreme rhetoric. I do also think, though, that it's not as rampant as many would like you to believe, many on the left would like you to believe. I do think that this is an easy target to appeal to emotion. This is an easy target for Democrats to say, vote for us because look at this one racist guy who also says he's voting for Trump, something in which Trump has no control over.
Are the Democrats playing dirty by exaggerating the racist?
They're not playing dirty. We're a different party. I mean, you can look at the Republican Party. You can look at the Democratic Party. You can go to the Republican convention in Cleveland. You can go to the Democrats in Philadelphia. In the room in Philadelphia, you're going to see America. You're going to see what America looks like. You're going to see representatives from every group in the country. You go to the Republican convention, you're going to see mostly white people. One of the comedians, not this year, but I think in 2012, had a microphone set up and a camera set up in the lobby of the Republican convention and waited until they saw the first person of color walk by. They had a big clock running, and it would be 30 seconds, 3 minutes. There was nobody at the convention who was a minority in the United States.
Austin, has Donald Trump exacerbated racial tensions in the United States?
I certainly think that to some point he has exploited or capitalized
but you're voting for him. You voted for him.
On an emotional aspect of the voter base by saying, for example, when it comes to Muslim immigration, these are the types of things that I would be absolutely against, absolutely against him for, and specifically the reservations I have in voting for him. I'm not denying that his rhetoric hasn't been hyperbolic or an exaggeration, but I do have to say one thing here. I think that it's such a tired rhetorical device to say that the Republicans is the party of white people and it's racist. The fact of the matter is we can look at what we had in the primaries and the diversity we had. We had a black brain surgeon. We had a female CEO. The two candidates after Trump in the primaries were both Hispanics. You go to the Democratic side, they were all old white establishment.
It's not rhetoric. It's not rhetoric.
And
Look
when you
at
talk
Donald
about,
Trump.
excuse me, when you talk,
it's not
can I
hype,
finish? Can I
and
finish?
it's not rhetoric.
Can I finish,
I thought
please?
you would finish.
No.
Sorry, Austin.
So when you say that, yeah, they stood and they waited at the convention or they waited for someone of color, that's an anecdotal fallacy. But if you look at actually what was representing the Republican Party during the primaries and you compare that actual diversity compared to the old white establishment on the right. But the other point, the other
candidates, you had a lot to choose from.
The other point that and why I think it's a tired rhetorical device to call the Republican Party is just to compare the histories. The Republican Party is the party of civil rights, all the way back to Abraham Lincoln, to emancipation, to women's suffrage, all the way up until the civil.
I don't want to get into that. Yeah, I know the Democrats were pro-slavery and the Republicans.
I
know that, but I don't want to get into that.
But it's not rhetoric for Donald Trump.
Fair enough.
Right?
But the man they chose was Trump, who has maybe unleashed something very unpalatable in the year 2016, no matter how diverse the candidates were. Can I put a lid on that for the moment? Because I need to move on. We are running out of time.
But first you can look at Trump and his history. You can look at the 1970s when he and his father were actually convicted of violating anti-discrimination laws. They were not allowing black people to rent apartments from them.
Our viewers can look into that. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
And Donald Trump was not convicted.
I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
But they settled.
I need to move on. I need to move on. Now from the beginning, this campaign has been filled with all sorts of mudslinging, character attacks, and a simple lack of courtesy, many people thought. Could it be the nastiest campaign in U.S. history?